The old Mongolian herder who first uttered the phrase, "A tiger wearing a bell will starve," was likely thinking of the practicalities of the hunt. A predator, no matter how powerful, cannot succeed if it announces its presence with every step. The melodious clink that might charm a shepherd is for the tiger a death knell for its sustenance. It is a proverb carved from the hard granite of survival, a lesson in the necessity of stealth, of silence, of the element of surprise. Geir speaks to a primal understanding. To be seen, to be known, to be tracked is to be thwarted. And then, centuries later, from the shadowy corridors of power and strategy, comes the sharp, cold whisper, "Never let them see you coming." It is the same truth, refined and weaponized for the human arena. Together, these two strands of wisdom, one from the wild and one from the world of human conflict, form a profound psychological and philosophical lens through which we can examine the quiet crisis of the modern self. We live, undeniably, in the age of the bell. Our culture is a foundry, ceaselessly forging bells of every size and tone and hanging them around our necks. Social media is the most obvious carillon, a cacophony of curated existence where we are compelled to ring the bell of our breakfast, our workouts, our professional triumphs, and our carefully staged moments of bliss. Each post, each update is a chime that says, "Here I am. This is my location, my thought, my achievement, my pain." We document the journey so obsessively that we forget to take the steps. The map becomes more detailed than the territory. But the bells are not only digital. They are the job title that precedes us into a room, the car we drive that signals our status, the relentless pressure to have a personal brand, a polished, predictable and easily digestible narrative of who we are. We become walking symphonies of self-declaration, and we wonder why we feel so deeply, spiritually hungry. As your psychologist, let us delve into the starvation of the belled tiger. It is not a starvation of calories, but of essence. The first and most profound famine is that of authentic experience. When you are constantly performing, you are never truly living. The mind splits. One part has the experience, the other part immediately begins crafting the narrative of that experience for public consumption. The sunset is not felt on the skin and in the soul. It is filtered, framed, and captioned. The quiet, private struggle that forges character becomes a source of shame, something to be hidden, because it does not chime sweetly with the brand. This division creates a pervasive sense of emptiness, a feeling of being a ghost in your own life. You are ringing the bell so loudly that you can no longer hear your own inner voice. The second hunger is for potency and impact. A tiger that is always seen loses its power to influence its environment. Its approach is anticipated. Its prey flees. So too with the individual who is perpetually visible. When your thoughts, your strategies, your moves are broadcast in real time, they lose their force. There is no room for the strategic pause, for the considered retreat, for the silent gathering of strength. In negotiations, in relationships, in creative pursuits, the person who reveals all their cards at once has no leverage. Their actions become predictable, and predictability is the antithesis of power. It makes you a reactive entity, constantly responding to the expectations your own bell has created, rather than a proactive force shaping your own destiny. And the third, most insidious starvation, is that of the interior world. The constant external performance comes at the direct expense of internal reflection. The psychic energy required to maintain the chime, to manage the image, to respond to the notifications, to keep the story consistent, is energy stolen from the deep, quiet work of the soul. The subconscious mind, that fertile ground of dreams, intuition, and creative breakthrough, cannot thrive in a state of perpetual performance. It requires darkness, silence, and unobserved time. It is in the unbelled moments, the walk without a phone, the idle staring out a window, the silent meditation, that the most profound insights and the deepest healing occur. By ringing the bell constantly, we are starving our own inner tiger of the solitude it needs to be fierce and wild and free. This is where the life coach must intervene, not to condemn the modern world, but to offer a path of conscious reclamation. The goal is not to become a ghost, but to become a strategist of your own energy. It is to learn when to wear the bell and when to move in absolute silence. The principle of never let them see you coming is not about deceit or malice. It is about the cultivation of personal power through discernment and self-possession. It is the art of the unseen preparation, the quiet mastery that makes the eventual success seem, to the outside world, almost effortless. Let us translate this into practice. First, we must practice radical information management. This means auditing your life for the bells you have voluntarily donned. Which aspects of your goals, your struggles, your developing ideas are you broadcasting unnecessarily? The creative writer who talks too much about the novel can sometimes talk the novel out of existence, the energy for the work dissipating in the telling. The entrepreneur who shares every setback and pivot invites unsolicited advice and drains their own resolve. Learn to hold your cards close to your chest. Work in the dark. Let your next move be a revelation of its completion, not a commentary on its process. This builds not only mystery, which has a social power, but more importantly, it builds your own internal reservoir of focused intent. Second, we must cultivate the power of the unobserved apprenticeship. Every great master was once a silent student. There is immense freedom in not being watched while you are still learning, still clumsy, still failing. Give yourself the gift of a pursuit that no one knows about. Learn the language, the instrument, the skill in complete privacy. This protects the fragile seedling of a new identity from the harsh winds of external opinion and expectation. It allows you to be a beginner without the performance anxiety of being a beginner. Your growth becomes a secret between you and your craft, a sacred space where your inner tiger can strengthen its muscles without an audience. Finally, and most crucially, we must relearn the art of being rather than seeming. The philosopher versus the sophist. The former is concerned with the truth of their being, the latter with the appearance of truth. Our culture overwhelmingly rewards the sophist, but the life of meaning is built on being. This requires daily intentional periods of bell removal, digital fasts, silent walks, journals that are for your eyes only, conversations where you listen to understand, not to reply brilliantly. In these spaces, you are not building your brand. You are building your character. You are reacquainting yourself with your own desires, fears, and strengths, unmediated by the perceived judgment of others. You are allowing your true self to coalesce in the darkness, so that when you do choose to step into the light, your actions are not a desperate performance, but a natural expression of a solid, integrated self. The ultimate synthesis of the proverb and the principle is this: the goal is not to live a life of total invisibility, but to become the one who chooses when to be seen. The tiger does not starve because it is never heard. It starves because it is always heard. There is a time for the majestic roar, for the visible, powerful presence that commands the landscape. But that power is predicated on the long, silent hours of the stalk, the patient, unseen movement through the tall grass. The roar has power precisely because it was preceded by silence. So take stock of your bells. Which ones have you chosen? And which have been hung around your neck by the expectations of a noisy world? Have the courage to remove them one by one. Nurture your inner world with the same fervor you once nurtured your online profile. Learn to move through your life with a greater degree of silence and subtlety. Let your work speak for itself long after the work is done. Let your strength be discovered by others, not announced by you. Reclaim the fertile darkness of your own unobserved becoming. For it is in that quiet, in that sacred space where no bell tolls, that you will find not starvation but the rich, raw, and potent sustenance your soul has been craving all along. You will no longer be a predictable chime in the distance, but a force of nature, silent until the moment of your choosing, never letting them see you coming.